Coming up, I'm going to make the case why you should never retire. And then a tale of two massive layoffs. And I'll tell you what a NILF is. Listen closely and why it's bad. Helping you win at work and in your personal life. This is the Ken Coleman Show. Thrilled that you are with us. All right, let's get to this. Boy, this is going to make some people uncomfortable. But that's my job, to push you, to nudge you. And that's what I want you to take this as, just a nudge. A gentle nudge to challenge conventional cultural thinking. All right? So the conventional cultural thinking about retirement is, well, we got to retire someday, and I got to have some money, so when I retire, I can be comfortable. But what if research shows that retirement's not good for us? Would you believe it? Would you care? The facts are that some people wouldn't care, because I can show you research that say that sugary drinks and junk food are bad for you, and you go, I don't care. Hand me a bag of chips, please. So I understand that what I'm about to say isn't going to make a difference for some of you. But for those of you that it will make a difference for, we've got to unpack this. All right, so let's look at where we stand. Let's look at our younger generations. What do they think about retirement? What are their viewpoints? All right, so you look at Gen Z and millennials, 41% of this younger generation, the two major demographics here, say they'd like to retire before 45. So this cultural thing I talked about of retirement, it's now expanding. Or maybe a better word is the view of retirement is much more intense. I want to do it sooner. Why wait till 65? How about 45? Now, quick social commentary on this. I'm not surprised when I read data like this. I'd not seen this data before, but as soon as I read it, I'm not surprised. And here's why. If you think of these young people, these are millennials and Gen Z, so they're in their 30s and 20s, and their view of work has largely been, work sucks. It's something you have to do. My mom and dad hate it. They've changed jobs. They don't even know why they're doing what they're doing. You just pick the negative image or connotation of work, and these two generations have largely grown up with that. So their perception of work is now a reality to them. And they go, I don't want to do this for much longer than 45. And thus the rise of the movement FIRE, financially independent, retire early, an acronym, right? And so you got a lot of young people going, I'm going to work like a maniac, work crazy hours, truly burn themselves out, because work is nothing more than a means to an end, and it is a means to a financial end. That's it. So they'll work like crazy. The idea is they save up, they invest, and they get to a point where at the age of 40 or 45, they're done. And in their minds, I don't ever have to work again. Now, that statement is true if they get to that financial place. But I would submit to you that they should work. They don't have to, but you should. Why? Let's look at the research. The cultural view of retirement, I work to a certain age. For my generation older, it's been 65, whatever, late 50s, mid 50s, late 50s, whatever that number is for you. But for this younger generation saying, I want to get there at 45. And so that view of I don't have to work again is actually not good for us. Harvard has an ongoing study where researchers have found that retirees were 40% more likely to have a heart attack or stroke than those who are still working. So that's a significant number. 40%. If it was 4%, I'd be like, 40% of retirees likely Retirees were 40% more likely to have the heart attack or stroke than those who work. In another study, healthy retirees who worked just one additional year over the traditional retirement age of 65 had 11% lower risk of death over the next 18 years. Now, again, that's a significant number. Now, these are just two. I could pull more studies. But I wanted to, before I make this strong statement, that I know some of you are going to go, Ken, you're full of it. And by the way, that's your right, and I'm okay with you disagreeing with me. But the health data shows what I believe to be a spiritual or a soul issue. And the body is just backing it up. And here's the point. I believe that we were created to work, not to slave in a dead-end, boring, miserable existence, but to work as a contribution to our fellow man. In other words, for the common good. I believe we were created to contribute to the common good. Does work provide for us? Yes. Should work provide for us? Yes. But provision is only one half of the reason for work. And so if you're new to the show, I've said this many times, provision and contribution. That's how we should see work. As provision and as contribution. And to see purpose in work and the phrase, the dream job, is not selfish or fantastical, but actually about others, about a contribution. So this idea of financial independence, retire early, it's not going to be great for us physically, because it's not going to be great for us spiritually. Here's what I mean by that. Even if you don't call yourself a person of faith, don't dive too deep. Don't think too hard here. I'm saying that we as humans are souls. We have a soul. And when the soul is not engaged in work, and you spend that much time at work, and the soul is not engaged and on fire and free-flowing through us, through our spirit, then that has obvious health consequences. Sam Dogan, the founder of Financial Samurai, retired at 34, and later he said this: I finally understand why researchers say that no matter how much of a boost we get in our freedom and our money, we eventually revert back to our normal baseline of happiness. What he's talking about is the idea that we want to be active. We as humans were created to produce, to be active, to do good. And so that's the idea. So this idea of I don't want to work is going to be the cure for all my unhappiness. I got news for you. It's going to expose the true source of your unhappiness. And that is that you don't sense purpose and meaning very much in your life. And it's beyond our relationships. As I've said before, we have relational purpose. Those are the roles we have with the people that we do life with. And we have professional purpose. We were put here to put something good into the world. And until you figure out what it is, and until you do it, I will tell you that you'll be searching. You'll be lacking. You'll sense it. A hole in your soul. It's real. And we got to understand this. So I don't think you should ever retire. You can slow down. You can downshift. But you better keep doing something. Coming up next, we're going to show you two massive layoffs, what was right, what was wrong about both. Don't miss that.
Did you know that just like a product, you have a personal brand? It's the image or impression others form about you based on your interactions. And whether we realize it or not, our personal brand impacts opportunities to grow in our careers. That's why our team created the Personal Brand Survey. It's free, and it will give you personal and professional feedback so you can own your strengths and uncover any blind spots holding you back. To get started, go to kencoleman.com/brand.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show. I am a man of the people, by the people, for the people. So in my tasks, I try to keep you up to date with things you need to know about in the news and prepare you. And so this is one of them. And then I want to also point out that if you are leading a company and you happen to listen or watch this show and you feel like you guys are going to be going through some layoffs, I have a special offer. I want to help you help those people that you're going to lay off. And I'll tell you how I'm going to do that. Put my money where my mouth is. Because after all, when you say you're of the people, by the people, for the people, you actually have to do something about it, not just flap your gums. So today is election day, and it would behoove us to remember, if you haven't voted yet, or as you vote, and it's a wonderful liberty that we as Americans have, don't vote for somebody who flaps their gums. Don't vote for the person who flaps their gums better than the other person flaps their gums. And in other words, I'm not talking about Republican or Democrat, conservative, liberal. I don't care how you vote. I actually want you to vote the way you believe, whether it's in agreement with me or not. I just love the freedom and liberty of voting. But let me just say this. We, the people, actually have more power than we realize. But we give so much power to these men and women up in D.C. and in your state government because you don't hold them accountable to anything. And so it is a beauty contest. Well, this person flapped their gums better than that person flapped their gums. That's really what it boils down to, sadly. Isn't it true? It's like, I don't care how well you speak or what you say. Although I prefer it to be communicated in a way that's winsome, yes. But I want to know what you do. So you can trust me, and you don't have to vote for me. Well, essentially, you do vote for me when you watch or listen to the show. So thank you. I appreciate your support. Like, subscribe, and share. All right. 2 layoffs. Okay, we're going to look at 2 different mass layoffs, and we're going to break them down. All right. One is Twitter. And this is getting a lot of headlines. Obviously, Elon Musk has bought Twitter, and it looks to be, at best, a bit of a circus right now. A lot going on. Don't know what's true, what's not. So let me just say you need to be mature here. And I'm going to point out stuff that in these articles is reported. We haven't got facts on this, but it's still an important discussion. All right. So this is from a Fox Business article. Jassim Abid, a software engineer at Twitter, tweeted that he woke up on Friday of last week and discovered he'd been laid off when he couldn't access his Slack and his work email, and found that his laptop had been remotely wiped. This is awful. I just don't understand why leaders continue to do this crap. If it needs to wait a day, then wait a day, but get a plan together that shows people dignity. I don't care who you are, what you do, how you do it. A person shouldn't wake up and go to their computer and figure out that they've been wiped. There's no dignity in that. And by the way, that's on Elon. This is a leadership issue. It goes to the top. I get it. He comes in. I'm not criticizing Elon and his takeover Twitter. I'm not getting involved in all that crap. So spare me your comments. I'm not going to read them anyway. But the point is that this is a leadership issue. And I don't care how hostile or how quickly a takeover happens, you have time to do what is right for people. Can I get an amen out there? I know I heard it. Okay, there it is. Now, another Twitter employee who's 8 months pregnant said she lost access to her work laptop Thursday night ahead of the announcement. So another example of this is in the details. If you can run a software company that allows people to tweet their innermost ridiculous thoughts, you can figure out a way to communicate to people before you wipe their computers. A new report by Bloomberg says that now Twitter is reaching out to dozens of employees to return to the media company, saying that some were fired on accident. Again, Elon's a smart guy. I don't like the cars. I think they're ugly, but they're cool and they're electric. And then he's got rockets going to space. He's a smart guy. If Elon is sitting right here in the studio, I go, hey, man, what leadership decision was made to where this is happening the way it's happening? Now, I want to point out that these are reports, and just because Bloomberg said it doesn't mean it's true, but the reports are that they're reaching back out to employees going, hey, we need you back because we actually have to run this thing. All right. Now, let's look at another big layoff. By the way, in case if you're not paying attention, you've been under a rock, the reports are that Twitter laid off about 50% of its workforce. All right, now here's another mass layoff. This from Stripe. And I take issue with how this was done, but it's a lot better than some of the stuff we've reported, and it's a lot better than what Twitter did. And I think there's some real leadership effort here and plan, and so I want to give Stripe some love. I have one tweak as to how I would have handled this. So this is actually from a letter that was emailed to everyone in the company at Stripe. And now this is from their website. So I printed it right off their website. So here we go. Okay, this is official. All right. And I'm going to just do excerpts. Today, this is from Patrick Collison, CEO. Today, we're announcing the hardest change we've ever had to make at Stripe to date. We're reducing the size of our team by around 14% and saying goodbye to many talented Stripes in the process. If you are among those impacted, you will receive a notification email within the next 15 minutes. For those of you that are leaving, blah, 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 because no one else read that part. And so this is my problem. Now, there are some good things in this email that I'll get to, but I just want to call this out. Here's what happened. You're getting this email, right? And you're reading this. And as soon as he says, we're reducing the size of our team by around 14%, you're like, oh, crap. I mean, emotionally, you're freaking out. Your brain is already on overload. Am I in 14%? When am I going to find out? And then you keep reading. And then it says, if you are among those impacted, you'll receive a notification email for the next 15 minutes. I mean, it's over. So, I mean, a real human is like, what? Like, they just found out that they are in Hunger Games. Right? I mean, that's what's going on. They're like, oh, crap. In the next 15 minutes, nothing else in their life is happening. They're stressing out, freaking out for 15 minutes. Am I in Hunger Games? Am I a pledge or whatever they called it? Whatever the stupid movie was. Tribute. What am I doing? Am I going to die? Have to fight for my life? Am I dead? I mean, come on. You all have seen the movie. That's what this email does. It puts everybody in the same emotional prison. I don't like it, Alex. So then they go on. And they lay out, this is on us, which, by the way, nobody cares. It's like, I appreciate the sentiment. It's on us, but there's too much of that, right? Because here's what I want to tell you, leaders. If you spend too much time telling people that the reason they got laid off is your fault, it falls on deaf ears. Because I got news for you. The minute you tell someone that they're laid off, guess whose fault they think it is? They think it's your fault if it's a mass layoff and they didn't do something wrong or related to performance. So anyway, I got to move quickly through this. All right, so then they go on and they do some good things in the email. Okay? They say, here's what we're going to do. It's no good way to do it. We're going to do our best to treat everyone. And they say, we're going to give you 14 weeks of severance pay. So you'll be paid until at least February 21st of 2023. Okay, that begins to make me go, okay, so that's good. Okay, so they do some good here. We're going to pay 2022 annual bonuses. We're going to give you all your unused PTO time. We're going to pay the cash equivalent of 6 months of health care. And then we're going to help you find a job. Now, that's good. Then they say, oh, by the way, in the next 24 hours or so, you'll meet with your leader. The only thing I would have changed is let the leader say everything that was said in the email. That's the way to do this.
So you just landed the new job. Congratulations. You've made it past the interviews and now it's time to onboard with excellence. That's why I created How to Stand Out at Your New Job. This free checklist will help you succeed from day one and may even help you get promoted. These practical steps set you up to add value, help your team win, exceed your leaders' expectations, and ultimately set you up for a successful transition. To get started, just go to kencoleman.com/new.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show. If you're watching live on YouTube, hello, hello, hello. Thank you so very much. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. All right, it's time for our coaching session where you get an opportunity to ask your question, and I turn into equal parts counselor, coach, and cheerleader. Nova Scotia, Canada is where James... I've always wanted to go to Nova Scotia because I like saying it. And so I'd like to come back and tell everybody for about a week, I was in Nova Scotia. It's just a fun word to say. And this is what it's like to have ADHD, folks. The struggle's real. Jamie is on the line. Jamie, how can I help?
Hey, Ken. Thanks again. Great pleasure to speak with you. And you're welcome in Nova Scotia anytime you'd like.
I got to tell you, I would love, I feel like it'd be great sweater weather and some corduroy pants and some soup.
You got it exactly right. That's what the East Coast is exactly like.
I got to get to Nova Scotia. We'll work on that. All right, Jamie, how can I help you?
Obviously, don't want to waste any of our time. I got a lot to unpack, so I'm going to jump right in.
Okay.
About 10 years ago, I got into my sweet spot. I'm in the financial industry. I love sitting kneecap to kneecap with clients, as Chris Hogan would say. I love being a leader on a team. What happened, I progressively worked my way through the career, and as I said, in my sweet spot. About in August, I got to a part where I considered it to be boredom. I don't know. I learned everything I could about the institution I was with, and then I thought, I'm just going to switch institutions, and I'll start fresh again and learn that, and that'll get me excited. But I've come to the conclusion that that's not necessarily what it is. And what I'm struggling with and trying to figure out is, if I'm in my sweet spot, why can I not be content? I love what I do. I love meeting clients, but I always, after a period of time, I need something fresh. And so I'm looking to you, if I'm in my sweet spot, how do I get there? Because honestly, I've got 15 years left in my career. I love what I'm in and I love what I do, but I want to be passionate about it 75, 85% of the time for the rest of the period.
Yeah. So this is a really awesome question. And so let's just really quickly set for our listeners and our viewers. The sweet spot I use as the analogy, much like a tennis racket or a baseball bat. When the ball is struck by the instrument in the sweet spot, you get maximum performance. It's where it was designed to actually hit the ball. And so we are designed to work. And so where you are designed to work is at the intersection of what you do best, that's talent, what work you love to do, a task or a role, that's passion, and then creating results that motivate you. That's what we call mission. So when I use what I do best to do work I love to produce results that matter to me, I am in that sweet spot. And so what's weird for you is it's like you get in it and then all of a sudden something changes and drops. And I think what's actually happening is there is a type of work that you love, but once you get to a certain point of mastery, or in other words, it's challenging for a season, and once you get to a point where it's no longer challenging, you start to get itchy or antsy. Does that sound about right?
Exactly it.
All right, so here's what happens. There's a momentary drop in passion in that it's probably in the same type of work of counseling or coaching or instructing or guiding, some type of work where you love, because you said you start off the call by going, I love sitting kneecap to kneecap with people. And I don't think that changes. But what I think changes is the type of thing that you're doing in that kneecap to kneecap moment. And I think what happens is you're one of those people, and you're like me, if I'm being honest, you need a new challenge, something new you got to learn, something new that's testing you. And I think that when that happens, it confuses you. And then you go, oh, and I think that's what I wanted to hone in on. So if you love being with people, kneecap to kneecap, being that guide, then you have to identify when does it lose, or what aspects of that lose its luster, if you will, after you get to a point where you're really good at it. Does that make sense?
Right. It does.
Can
Yeah,
you answer?
absolutely.
Can you answer that right now? When does it change for you? Like, when does it go from the juice to?
I think it's the when I get to capacity. I'll run in as a thoroughbred, and I'll run and run and run and do really well, and then it gets to a capacity where I've met maybe that same identical story several times, and I go, okay, then I've seen this enough. I've mastered it. What's next?
Okay, now we're on to something. So, am I hearing you say that once you get a person to a place where they're essentially on cruise control in a positive way, that you lose the juice? It's like, well, I've been there, done that. I've got them. They're rocking and rolling. Is that when it happens? Describe that a little bit more in detail.
Absolutely. It's exactly that. It's that I'll get them on a spot that, to use an example, if I'm working with a client and they've got themselves in financial freedom and they're plodding along and get to do the things they love, I'm done with that client. I feel that's fantastic. Now I need something different.
Okay, so I'm going to take a stab at a metaphor, okay? I think what we're hearing here is you are the ER doctor, or maybe a surgeon. You're not physical therapy.
Correct.
That's it. That's the answer.
Right.
So what you have to do is go, wait a second, but you got to change your mindset. So we got to change our mindset, and then we change everything else. So it's not about changing jobs or changing industries, it's changing mindset. So you've got to start thinking of yourself. I'm going to use another metaphor. You got to think of yourself as a really good coach. And so you take over a bad program. Okay? And I know you're Canadian, so I know I'm getting all American on you, but you take over you got the Canadian Football League, right?
We do, yes.
All right, so you take a bad Canadian football team, okay? They suck. They're terrible. And you come in and you fix the organization. You coach, you're a good coach. You come in and you restore the culture. You get everybody playing well, and they're good. You don't quit coaching. You have a new challenge. All right, so we become a winning team, so now we want to win the whole league, and we want to see if we can repeat. And so you keep upping the challenge. Can we keep a perfect record? Can we go 5 years in a row, win the conference, or whatever? This is what great coaches do. They continually are challenging themselves, so it's a mindset thing. Okay, what's the next challenge? So I can get a person winning financially, okay, but then what? Well, I want to keep them winning. And then I want to find new people to get them there. And so you're not changing jobs. You're just going, okay, I got a certain amount of my clientele that I get going, I get a rocking, and I stay with them, and I keep going. But I am all about finding that person who doesn't think they can win and help them win. And so you're focusing most of your time on that, but you don't quit on the excellence piece. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's exactly it, is that I get to a point where I got them where I wanted to, but I couldn't change the mindset to say, what's next? So setting that next mountain.
Yeah, but celebrate the fact that you got 20 clients that are millionaires. And I want to keep them winning. And maybe they introduce me to other people. It's like, wait a second, we want to get as many people on the team, on the football team, playing their best role. But I can tell you this, you'll never run out of people who need coaching.
Correct.
And so you don't get bored. You get excited. You go, okay, got this player cooking. He's doing great. Now I got to go work on this guy.
Love it.
Yeah, it's a mindset thing. But what happens is you're getting a confusing message because you're going, well, I need the juice, man. And you're the guy that's like, get me to the ER. I want to fix that. I don't want to do physical therapy after the surgery. I'm going to give them to somebody else.
Correct.
Yeah, pick your metaphor, but that's the mindset shift.
Yeah.
You got to celebrate the wins, man.
I agree. It's no question about the wins on that side. It's just getting to that next step and moving on. And
you got two focuses as a coach. As a financial advisor, you have two focuses. You got to focus on the people who need to learn how to win, and then keeping those who are winning. This is the Ken Coleman Show. I'm going with Scotia.
You were created to fill a unique role through your work, but it can feel overwhelming to figure out what that is. That's why I created the Get Clear Career Assessment. In just 15 minutes, you'll get customized results that clarify what you do best, the work you love to do, and the results that motivate you. All this helps you discover what you were born to do. And you'll get a list of professional possibilities to help you in your job search. To get started, go to kencoleman.com/assessment.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show. So I look over in the chat room here on the live YouTube feed. We have our erstwhile viewers. We call them the YouTube crazies. It's a term of endearment. And if I'm reading this right, Aaliyah Fitzgerald is here. Is that you, Aaliyah, out in the lobby? Okay, very nice. So you're talking about how beautiful the studios are, and it is lovely. And it just reminded me to tell you, come see us sometime. Come watch the show live. And come out and say hi after the show. So welcome, Aaliyah. You're sitting next to the chief crazy, Gary Spratt, who just shows up all the time now. I think Gary's got an apartment somewhere down in our basement. You know, I think he does. And he just decides to show up every once in a while. So always good to see Gary. All right, let's get to James in Chicago, the Windy City. James, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hey, Ken. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet. What's up?
I've got a question. I've kind of ended up in two awkward situations, and I don't want to become a job hopper.
Okay.
So my previous tenure was about 5 months. I applied for one job description, got in the door, and then they're like, well, here's your job description. Bait and switch, not what I wanted. So they actually laid me off over that. And then I got another job, and I'm in here is like, this isn't quite what I wanted. And the boss is not a good guy. He has driven a couple people out of the company. No one's really got a tenure more than 2 years. And I'm like, have I made a mistake? Is it too soon to be looking for the next one? I've been here about 5 months, and I don't want to be a job hopper, but I don't want to work in an environment with a culture of fear of the boss and don't let the boss hear you. What do I do?
No, you have to come up with an exit strategy. We don't stay in prison because we're worried about telling people why we're in prison.
So even like that 2 5-month tenures on a resume, or let's say it gets to 6 or 7
Well, first
months,
of all, you got but you got laid off on the first one, so you're going to have to explain that anyway.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to own that narrative. You got laid off because they hired you for one thing and then changed it when you got there.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, this is not what I signed up for. We don't want to throw them under the bus and, look like we're griping and complaining. But I mean, the layoff is the layoff. You got laid off. It happens in this economy. I just don't think that being laid off is a stain. There's a difference between being fired for something you shouldn't have done or behavior or performance than being laid off. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
All right, so let's control the narrative. So I'm going to say positive, but say exactly what happened. All right, they hired me for one thing. I got in there and they changed their total focus. It just wasn't a great fit. We tried to make it work, but they ended up laying me off. So it is what it is. Now this deal's on you. You went to this current company. I don't know, and I'm not blaming you, but I don't know why you decided to go work there and not figure out if it was a healthy culture. There's ways to figure that out, and I think that's important for me to point out to you that when we start to look today, you need to do your homework and take the current situation and the lessons that you're learning about what you didn't check out, and we do it this next time, and we find out, am I going to a good culture? This company XYZ over here, is it a healthy culture? We've got to figure that out. That's not hard to figure out. It's not hard to find. And so we just say, look, it is what it is. And I think what you do is you look for something, and if you're using the proximity principle, and if you don't have the book, I'll give it to you right now, where you look at your connections and your relationships, and you rely on those to get you a job. So you don't have to worry about the perception of the 5-month thing, because you're going to be recommended. And they're going to already have a positive impression of you before you ever get in the interview. And you're going to tell them the truth. You're going to go, hey, I got laid off over here. And I wanted to get a job really quickly. I wanted to take care of myself. And I think what I learned is figuring out the right fit matters. And now I know what the right fit is, and be intelligent about it. I'm going to give you my Get Clear career assessment right now. I want you to take it.
Okay.
And I want you to look at your purpose statement, and I want you to see that as a job description, because it is. And when you go into the interview, you can use the language. Go, listen, I took this assessment, and it showed me what I'm really good at, and it lines up beautifully with the job description. And it showed me what work fires me up, and boy, does this fit. And it shows me what motivates me, and man, this job does that. Listen, hiring managers will first look at you like you've got horns growing out your head because they've never heard anybody talk that way. And then they're going to go, wow, yeah, let's do this, man. But more importantly, it's not about you convincing them that you're the right fit. It's about you realizing this is the right seat, and the right seat on the right bus. This is the culture piece that you've unfortunately had to learn tough lessons. So get your head up, start looking, take control of the narrative, and get out of there. This is the Ken Coleman Show.
Did you know that recruiters take an average of 6 seconds to scan a resume? And that's if they ever see it in the first place. In fact, 75% of resumes are rejected before reaching a hiring manager. Listen, folks, if you want to get hired, you've got to make your resume worth noticing. That's why we created How to Write the Perfect Resume. This free guide will walk you through the 5 steps to stand out in the hiring process to get you your dream job. If you want to get started, go to kencoleman.com/resume.
I feel like I may be in the dressing room of American Eagle in the mall. Trying on a pair of jeans. I don't know what's happening right now.
Nice sweater.
Hey, I want to make an offer. I told you I was going to make an offer. And now I'm going to make the offer. If you are listening or watching the show and you're about ready to lay off some people, whether it's 3 people, 1 person, or 30 people, you're in leadership of a company that's going to be doing this, will you email my show, ask@kencoleman.com, ask@kencoleman.com. Here's what I'm going to do for you. We're going to give you my Get Clear assessment, which will help those employees figure out what purpose in work looks like, what their sweet spot is, and you can give that to them, my gift for you to give to them, to help them find the right seat on the right bus as they leave you. It's the least we can do if we have to lay people off, because it happens. And we're in a unknown situation right now as we look at the economy in 2023. A lot of people predicting recession. We're already seeing layoffs from companies that staffed up big time during the pandemic when online was just hot. And you're just going to see it. Public companies, especially larger companies, that when they think recession's coming, they do what anybody with half a brain does if a large storm is coming. You prepare for a storm. They're not big, bad, evil corporations. We got to, have some maturity here to understand that what would you do in your personal life if you knew a storm was coming, financially or anything else? You'd prepare for it. So understand, companies get out in front of this stuff, trying to cut costs. They're in it to make profit. That ain't a bad thing. So there you go. By the way, Matthew Dixon is in the chat room, and I've got to address this. He says, I wonder what Ken thinks about the FIRE strategy. Matthew, rewind to the start of the show. I talked about it today. I'm glad you've joined us, but you're a little tardy. Rewind, and I address it. And I address it in totality, not just the FIRE movement specifically, but this idea of how retiring early isn't good for us. Matthew, welcome to the show. Hit the rewind button. All right. Here we go. What is a NILF? Oh boy, a lot of people just got nervous. It's NILF. What is a NILF? An NILF? Well, it means not in the labor force. That's the acronym. I know. Hey, I get it. Freaked a few people out. This is a family-friendly show. Everybody relax. It means not in the labor force, and it's not my idea. It's not my term. This is from a New York Post article, disturbing rise of the not in the labor force people. I feel we've created too much blood pressure issues already, so we'll just call it that. There it is. There's the headline. Not in the labor force is what it stands for. And this is actually really troubling. So job totals, even now, are back above pre-pandemic highs. So we're still over 10 million jobs available right now, posted in the United States. And unemployment rates are at 50-year lows. We're at about 3.8%. The all-time low is 3.4%. I mean, so we have this big disparity. So you're just a little bit less than a job and a half available for every person who is saying they're unemployed. This group, not in the labor force, they're not applying for unemployment benefits. They don't even want to work. They're just like, nope, we're good. So who is this group? A huge portion are men in the prime of their life between 25 and 54. Today, there are 7 million men aged 25 to 54 who are neither working nor looking for work. What are they doing? Now, I don't want to be unkind, but this is where I have always asked our audience to be mature and listen to what I'm saying. And if you're not mature enough to listen to what I'm saying and you want to throw hate at me, fine. I don't read it, just as a reminder. Millions of the 7 million, whether they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s, or 50s, are at home living off of somebody else. Maybe their spouse, maybe their wife, maybe they got a sugar mama. Maybe she's good with that. If you're a stay-at-home dad, it ain't for me, but I'm not knocking it. All right? I'm not knocking that. So maybe that accounts for some stay-at-home dads. Okay. Then you got some guys have just opted out. They were in their 50s, maybe middle to late 50s or early 60s. We're actually talking about men 25 to 54. So some of these guys just opted out early and retired. Said, okay, I got where I am, and the pandemic kind of made me calibrate, and so I'm out. Okay, so you got those. I'm going to call those your honorable. I get that. But the dudes that are 25 to 54 that are just at home on screens, giant TVs, iPads, phones, and they just spend their day getting dopamine hits on whatever screen and whatever they're watching or they're doing, from a game to movies to whatever. I'm just keeping it real. That's what's going on. And someone is supporting them. The federal government, state governments through welfare programs, families, some cases parents, because they protected Johnny his whole life and told Johnny he was great in order to make Johnny feel good. What the problem is, Johnny knew deep down in his heart when mom said he was great that he wasn't. And then Johnny got confused. And Johnny wonders if his mom and dad were lying to him. Why were they lying to me? Why am I here? I don't have any answers. Mom and dad never pushed Johnny to fail. So he doesn't know what it's like to fail. And failure's scary. It's scary for me. Scary for all of us. But at some point, early on in our existence, we begin to stare fear in the face and we go, I'm really scared, but I think what's on the other side of this fear is pretty freaking awesome. And I'll tell you when you first experienced it, it's called a bicycle. At the end of the day, a little girl, a little boy decides to overcome their fear at swimming lessons or learning how to ride a bike or going to kindergarten or standing up in front of a group of people. And we're all terrified. But it's the ones who go, you know what? There's something better on the other side of failure. I could fail. That's what we're afraid of. Even on the bike, we're afraid of failure. It just looks like our knees being skinned up and sticking to the sheets for 3 or 4 nights. I'm just telling you. And we got a bunch of men who've been coddled and have never experienced failure. And so failure is so terrifying, they'd rather be miserable and sit and just medicate dopamine and all other kinds of drugs and everything else, antidepressants, anxiety stuff. Listen, I'm telling you, somebody's got to say it. Today's work rates for prime age American men are lower than in 1940 when the unemployment rate was 15%. When are we going to wake up? By the way, no politician, no bureaucrat, Jerome Powell, head of the Fed, nobody's going to fix this. This isn't a financial problem. This is a psychological and emotional problem. It affects our economy. You got small business owners, can't hire anybody, can't get anybody. We've got a huge gap. But it cannot be fixed economically. It must be fixed spiritually, emotionally, mentally. The reason people don't want to work is because they can't get out of the basement, can't get off the screens. Can't face what they need to face, and we're seeing people medicate. In 2021, at least 45% of both males and females, 55 to 64, that weren't working, they were also taking pain meds. Huge amount of pain med. They're trying to salve the soul. And I'm just going to tell you, folks, we were created to contribute. If you got a friend or family member that's struggling with this, show them their contribution and encourage them. This is the Ken Coleman Show. Press on.
Thanks for listening to the Ken Coleman Show. For more, you can find the show on demand wherever you listen to podcasts and watch the show on YouTube. You can also find Ken across all social media by following @Ken Coleman.